Welcome to Foxfire Focus, the podcast that brings clarity and insight to the industry's most relevant issues. Foxfire's mission is to provide the best service experience in eye care. So, we hope you enjoy what you're about to hear and that this information provides some perspective on the exciting opportunities facing our profession. For more information about Foxfire, please visit us at foxfiresg.com. Foxfire, taking care of your practice so you can manage your patients.
Hello and welcome to Foxfire Focus, a podcast about eye care. Today my guest is Daniel Rostenne, an old friend who has just celebrated 17 years in the business of helping optometrists with their online presence. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nichols. Nice to be here. It's been a while now. You and we connected many years ago, didn't we?
Yes, I don't know where I fit back there 17 years ago, but if I wasn't 17, I was probably 16 years ago, some long time ago, that we've had a business relationship that I have thoroughly enjoyed. So thank you, and thank you for being a guest on this program.
Pleasure.
I've never asked you this, and I'm kind of curious. What was the path that led you to spend your life work helping optometrists with their digital presence?
I wish the answer was glamorous. In 1997, so we're talking almost 25 years ago, I was running a company that was building very, very large websites for cities, for governments, for universities. We had an office, we had staff, we had classrooms, etc. We also did training. And literally one day, a former SIBA rep walks into the office, and he says, and I quote, "I know a bunch of optometrists. Can you guys build websites?" And we're like, "Yeah." So we actually we got started in 97. The business that we built, we sold in 99. We had a 5-year non-compete. And when we looked up again in 2004, I had just sold my other business. The optometry industry hadn't progressed much. So we said, let's do it again. And we jumped back in with EyeCarePro because we really enjoyed our first time around. And here we are 17 plus years later.
Wow, that's a great story. Now, your work has been largely with independent optometrists. And we independents often think of ourselves as the Davids in a world of Goliaths. What, though, do you think are the advantages that smaller independent practices have versus larger conglomerated practices?
Well, Dr. Nichols, David beat Goliath.
Yes, I know what that story is.
So I think that independent optometrists, private practice, do have a number of advantages, and they mirror up quite well. David was obviously more nimble, and practices can do the same. So, for example, if something new is moving into the industry, private practice has the opportunity to adopt it much quicker, but also to market it much quicker, to get out there, tell the community about it, put it on their website, put it on their social. Literally, they can react within a week, whereas any large group that's managing a big online presence isn't going to get there for a while. So those are some of the first mover advantages. But I think more in particular, if you take a look at a larger group, let's say that has 200, 300, 500 websites, Facebook pages, etc., it's very hard for them to give the individual attention they need to each part of their online presence. So when the practice really gets in and starts to tell their story, put their unique content and their unique, position, image onto their online presence, the large groups can't compete with that. So there's a definite advantage that private practice has when it comes to marketing online.
That's interesting. Now, there are a lot of things that you've seen over the years, and what do you see as some of the more consistent mistakes that independents are making as they attempt to practice marketing, or maybe fail to practice marketing? Maybe that's the number one mistake.
Mm-hmm. Two jump to mind. The first one is, everybody's heard this, but it's still there. Online reviews are critical to success. Online reviews will actually dictate whether the person that's looking at you online is just going to keep looking and move on, or stop, pay attention, and get in there and actually get to your website and look and go further down the pipeline to actually become a customer. And a lot of practices don't take that as seriously as they should. Now, some practices are afraid of, let's say, automating their online reviews. Every patient that comes in gets a review request and off they go. But what if it's a bad review? It's okay. You should be getting a lot more good reviews. But really what that brings up in a practice is how good is the customer service in the practice? Because that's really going to dictate how's the bedside manner, if you will. That's going to dictate the quality of the reviews, which is going to dictate your online presence, which is going to dictate how many new patients you're getting online. So I understand the concern that some practices might have. So really, you got to serve the customer, the patient as well as possible, and do not be afraid of automating your online reviews. So that's one I still see practices making. Surprises me how many are not really paying much attention to the online reviews. The second is the practice's ability to generate some of their own unique content. I couldn't tell you how many practices that we speak to. We say, look, Dr. Jones, you can talk about dry eye all day long. Can I just put a camera right here and you just talk for 1 minute? The second that happens, it's hard. But that kind of content that a practice generates, if I got dry eye and I'm coming to your website, that's what I want to see. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to read. So practices could get over that fear. You were doing this on an iPhone, right? You've got an iPhone right there. Right. Mm-hmm. Prop up the iPhone. It looks great. Give it a minute recording and you start to put it online. So I think that's the second mistake / advice I would give to practices right now. Generate your own content and put it up. Nothing can beat it. Yeah.
Now, you might get some pushback from occasionally. I'm sure you hear from practitioners that say, hey, look, I'm a guy in a small country town. The online presence is not important to me. Now, if I were in a big city, yeah, maybe, but here I am in Podunk, USA. How do you answer
that? On the one hand, you could say, well, you're right. You don't really need much. I totally agree with you. Probably everybody in Podunk knows you because probably your mom or your dad ran the practice before and you've been there for, 50 odd years. And the truth is, in that case, you probably don't need so much of an online presence. You could consider an online presence, a strong online presence, as a defensive mechanism because Podunk ain't going to stay Podunk forever. And what happens when doctor number 2 moves into town and all of a sudden they've got the fancy thing with a nice website with and you've got nothing and you've had plenty of years to get set up. So that's up to the doctor to decide if they want to take that approach. But I would say, if you can get a 3, 5, 10 year head start on getting 500 online reviews before doctor number 2 shows up in Podunk, why don't we do that? Why don't we get all that content up on the website? Now, there's a cost-benefit analysis, obviously. So you get the idea. You got to know Podunk, and you got to know if there's another doctor coming. And if so, I would get online. But if not, truth be told, I don't know why it really matters so much. They all know you. Yeah. I'm a marketing guy. You didn't hear me say this, but next question, please.
Well, all right. Next question is, let's say I'm a new practitioner. And I'm starting my practice. And I hear a lot about social media and the value of social media. Speak a little bit about social media versus a traditional website as a marketing tool.
Now, you're going to laugh at this one, Dr. Nichols. If you're just starting your own practice, that puts you somewhere in your 20s. I don't need to tell you about social media. You know quite well what social media is all about. And most doctors at that age have a pretty good sense of how to get a following, how to get social media going. However, what I would say, which is really to your point, the question that you're asking is the decision-making process that a potential patient makes to become a patient. What portion of that lies in social media versus a website? And as we've seen it, social media follows the awareness and interest model. You'll catch people, you'll bring them in. The decision will not be made on social media. Funnel them to the site. That's where the decision happens. That's where the information needs to be to really convert them into a patient. So I would definitely use social media as a way of bringing them in, shuffle them over to the website, and that's where the decision gets made. They book the appointment, et cetera, and they'll follow through there. So you need them both. If you were to just pick one of the two, which I wouldn't, I would go with the website, but I would go with both, obviously, to get the funnel over to the website.
Right. Good. There's been, I think, among practitioners my age, so we'll switch and put it back on on, let's say, the boomer optometrist. We boomer optometrists have often said, well, it was all word of mouth and I've done real well. I'm interested in starting to do some marketing with my practice, but I don't really know what to do. So kind of walk me through the steps that you would recommend to someone my age really trying to get busy marketing their practice so that not only will they benefit, but the successors of that practice will benefit.
I was hoping you were going to add that on, because the first question that needs to be answered is why. What's your goal? What are you trying to achieve? And in a number of cases, you're trying to set up succession planning so that you can actually get somebody to come in, perhaps buy the practice, take over the practice, and associate, whatever the case may be. So you definitely need an online presence. In terms of what steps would you take, seeing as how we provide marketing services, obviously one of the things we'll do is we'll come in and help you, get all of it done. But what I like to ask practices is as follows: we're going to do online marketing. Okay. Whether we do it or you do it, what's the goal? What business need are you trying to solve? Marketing is an activity. It solves a problem you have in your practice. So if you come to me and you were to just say, Daniel, I don't want to do marketing, I'd say, well, why? What are you trying to get at? So I could be a practice that my schedule may not be so full. So fine, I understand you want to fill your schedule. What kind of patients do you want to put in your schedule? Now, a lot of practices, give me cash paying patients that buy 5, whatever the case may be. But realistically, looking at who you're targeting, what kind of patients do you bring in? Some practices don't deal much with specialties. So for them, a good patient might come in, maybe buy a full year supply, maybe not, but they're looking at a more general patient. That kind of marketing is awareness driven on all the different, UV, sunglasses, blue light, et cetera, the standard. Some practices say, I've got real high revenue patients. Now you understand this as an optometrist. If you're targeting somebody who just needs to learn a bit more about UV or blue light or, et cetera, the education component of that is not as complex as getting to somebody to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on a set of sclerals. It's not going to be like a one-hit email and that's it, I'm going to go for sclerals. Heavy duty marketing, lots of information on the website. So all the marketing actually changes the second you're targeting high revenue specialty patients. So if I were to ask the practice, what's the business need? And you come back and say, Daniel, these are the 3 high revenue categories that we're going after. I'd say, okay, in that case, let's set up a website. Obviously, let's focus in on the specialties. Let's get real depth of content so that when somebody gets there, every question they have about myopia management is answered because they need to get that answer to become a patient. And that's how we focus in our marketing. And then the social is very heavy on education, very heavy, because there's a lot that they need to go through. That lead time is pretty lengthy. So that's the way we approach it is what's your goal? And once we know the goal, we'll set up the marketing to meet the goal. And that would be no different from an optometrist that's been practicing for 40 years versus 2 years.
Okay, good. Well, let me throw you one more question.
Okay.
Right, we're at a trade show and I walk up and I'm wringing my hands and I say, Daniel, half my dispensary traffic is now going to online sales.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do from a marketing perspective to try to help me hold on to those RXs or to bring them back or in some way not lose all this dispensary traffic?
The answer, as I believe it to be, is probably not in your marketing. But if patients are walking out the door and they're buying online, be it the glasses, be it the contact lenses, it's because they don't see the benefit of buying from the practice. So the practice hasn't packaged the service, hasn't really made the value tangible to the patient so that actually trying on a pair, maybe they have a more complex prescription, the adjustment, the warranty, the back and forth, whatever the case may be that they're trying to, that's lacking. And the practice doesn't have the language to interact with the patient to present that. They might not even have the actual value available to present to the patient. So there's a lot that needs to be done there. If you're a company that provides online e-commerce type services, as we know, there's many of them out there right now, they'll tell you you can leverage e-commerce to get the patient to buy online from you later. You want to buy online? No problem. Why don't you go ahead, take your prescription, come onto our website later, and you can try any one of these things. And then you still have to come up with a value package. You'll get the convenience of buying online, at home, etc. But you've got our guarantee behind it. We'll serve you. Come on in. We'll fit you. We'll take care of everything. And you can start to put together that component. So it's less of a marketing element, more of, I understand my patient and understand what they're looking to achieve, and I'll set up a service to suit them. So I can see more of that happening now. It's still slow on the uptake, but the practices that succeed, and there are plenty of practices that keep a good capture rate in-house, they have the service to match that, and the patient really feels the value and they stay.
Yeah. Perhaps we optometrists need to think about marketing on two sides. Yes, there's external marketing, but we need to think about how we market the value and the benefit of what we are doing when the patient is in the practice. Mm-hmm. That's as important as what we would do to patients outside the practice. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We've noticed that the success of online marketing is highly correlated to the success that the practice has in the office with the patient. Those happy patients will inevitably produce online marketing that'll attract more patients, more referrals. They'll come in and they'll, come right in. So definitely work on what's going on inside the office to improve what's happening outside the office. I quite agree with you.
Yeah, that's great advice, Daniel. Thank you so much for your time. You've a wealth of information. I wish we could tap into that brain of yours and get a little more, but EyeCarePro, folks, is a great partner. If I would highly recommend them. They have benefited my practice. I'm not intending this as a commercial for EyeCarePro, but I can't help but enthusiastically speak about this company and the integrity of the people that work there. So thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Dr. Nichols. It's been a pleasure.
Foxfire Focus. Tune in for another episode. Thank you.